The following featured presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the now we've just went over and mentioned a bunch of effects, but the work, just for example, the Enterprise and Dry Dock, the flight out there, what are the challenges that when you got it in your hands and you said, okay, here's my list of what I want to do, bing, 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 bing.
Bring up your V'ger model again.
Okay.
By the way, not only is the struts on the back too flat, they need to be out a little, but that's okay. I know about that model. That's from our director's edition model from the DVD.
Oh.
That was built around the original one that we had for the DVD. It's not the one that's in the new film. But I'll tell you what's funny. We were talking about during that original release, the original plan for this whole project, like you saw the complete adventure that we were having, that there should be a box set with different things. And I said that it would be great if we could put inside the box one of those V'ger models. And I said, we have to make it different. We have to make sure that it has something really special. So I had the idea that what we would do is we'd have a big bubble on the window of the thing that said includes USS Enterprise to scale.
Which would be, let me see here.
And the thing is that you'd open the box and you'd be looking for it in the white styrofoam and everything else, and nobody would ever find it. And I'd say, you didn't lose it, did you?
I would say I'm trying to look at some of the details here, and I'm telling you that I don't even think a pinhead would cover it.
Right, so it's in the box with it.
It's in there somewhere.
The version that we were talking, it would be inside the box, but it's it's like when Think Geek came out with the Monolith action figure, Collect All Three.
Yes.
I have this thing for inanimate object releases that are hilarious like that. And the Rocky side of beef, since we were talking about collecting, you get an action.
Yeah, the meat that he's punching. I remember that
dynamic side of beef. But no, that was one of the ideas we had for the V'ger model, which I thought you'd get a kick out of here, but it didn't happen. But I think they did include an Enterprise with that one anyway. So let's talk about the well, let me tell you what was different this time around than what we did 20 years ago. Number one, when I went back to the studio about getting the project to happen, my goal was that we had a negative to make. That was it. I went to the studio and said, you can do what you want with it, but this film needs to have the same chance that any other film would have in the catalog of the studio. And this is a crown jewel of the studio. It's a Robert Wise film, the only Robert Wise film that you have in the catalog. And that it has to be a film. And from there, you can do your videos, you can do anything else. In the future, you can do your holographic floating version. Because the same way anything else existed, you'd have that same material. So I said, I'm going to do that. If you need other versions, we can work that out, but that's what I'm here for. And the reason that I'm here for doing that, not only was it unfinished business for me for 20 years, was that Bob had me sit down when we found out that, there was going to be nothing more of the life other than the DVD. And this was around the time talking about technology and everything else. He wrote me into his little breakfast nook and sat me down and said, Dave, I may not be here forever. And I said, I hope you will. And he said, I need you to promise me that you will never stop until the director's edition exists on film. And it meant the world to me, because I said, I maybe like how you were when you did the film, and he didn't make very many films after. I feel like, in a way, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I only noticed actually today with an earlier podcast I did that I may have followed with him in that he didn't finish the film and he didn't do a lot of films after, and it almost felt like he couldn't until the film was finished. And it stopped his career a lot. And it's funny because I have narrative stories I've been wanting to tell all my life, and I didn't feel free. and now it's finished. I've been the creative juices are flowing, and I have set up things to do stories and get out there and pitch more and do them. And I'm fine doing them. I just don't know why I was helping everybody get their projects up and running and award winning, and but I felt held back by this not being finished. And
Well, it's
it
done
means
now.
so much that we got there. And he had me promise to do it. And I went to the studio and I said, I'm never going to let him down. And there was a point where they said, well, we'll come back and talk about it. And I said, listen, if it's not now, I'll talk to you in a month, because we're going to go back and forth until we find a way to do this. We just have to do it. And I will not let Bob down. And that was the commitment that I made. And it took a while. And one of the reasons that it took a while, other than the few failed attempts of doing it earlier, which were just logistical, the time wasn't right or anything else,
Right.
was that I also knew technologically we had advanced to a point where we could now do it. And I knew I can control the budget to make it into what would be, successful, and be able to accomplish it with the limitations that we had, which weren't bad. They were very kind and helpful. So part of the agreement is that they would transfer any film footage that we found so that we could use it in the film. And we transferred a lot of footage. And what our goals were is that there were a lot of things like that dry dock sequence, going back to that, where we had to patch holes in the effects. At one point originally, and again, this is standard definition, we're dealing with 720 by 540 resolution. That's nothing. That's a postage stamp.
Right.
But to fix the fact that when the travel pod's coming up here and you're going across the front, near the front of the saucer, and the edge of the saucer is missing because the light came through it, and therefore there was a hole in the mat. We used our CG Enterprise to generate that edge of the ship. We didn't want to have to do that. We were now in film quality. We wanted the original material, and we hunted down the different elements and recomposited them, including the actual Enterprise that was photographed. And that's the actual one. We didn't patch anything anymore. Everything was back to the original film element because we found them. And there was so much material archived. It was wonderful that we found almost everything. One of the things, I mean, and then the mad rush that they were doing to make the film be on time, I didn't realize that doing the compositing that fast became really soft. That a lot of the shots just really were soft by how quickly they had to do the work.
Right.
So there was a shot that that I saw when we were scanning Doug Trumbull's 65 millimeter elements. It was the shot of coming up on the saucer like this.
Right.
That actually is in the film, a reverse angle looking behind Turk and Scotty in the screen in front of them. That I saw the original camera footage, and I literally fell out of this chair. I looked at oh my God. It was unbelievably gorgeous. I could not believe what I was seeing. And I felt emotional, just like I feel right now talking about it. It was that was a religious experience to know that it looked like this. And we started looking at more and found so many pieces of the film to reassemble and just getting it to that quality. And that we started putting them together from those original elements as much as possible. And a lot of it was there, but what was also interesting is a lot wasn't. Like that shot that I just told you, we couldn't use because we didn't find what wasn't available was Scotty and Kirk foreground in the travel pod. But as I said, my two passions are technology and entertainment. We enhanced so many of the shots digitally that spent all my life researching different ways to enhance and bring out the quality in films, that we were working from the same exact negative scans that were used for the 4K of the theatrical that was out. So if you look at that one and you look at what we had the same source material. It was that my team and I sat down and worked out how we can do this, because the first time we did the project, we took our CGI effects and we had to lower the quality so that it would match the film. And there wasn't dirt removal or dirt cleanup was supposed to have been done at the time. So in order to make it match, we put in digital dirt so that the digital shots would have dirt going by here and there, assuming that if the dirt cleanup that was supposed to happen, which unfortunately didn't happen, happened, they clean that too.
Right.
But in order to make it match, we degraded the quality. Little secret we haven't told, I don't think I've ever told, but it's true, and that's why it worked before. Now, I needed a way to believe, even for myself, that the rest of the footage in the scene could hold its own against that beautiful recomposited shots. And it took a lot of time, shot for shot, working to balance it to make it work. And I feel the results are fantastic. About what we finally got out of that. And they're unbelievable. The modus operandi this time that I told everybody at the start, which was different. I said, I have a different plan this time. While we're going to be doing everything that there is to do to make the film be what it needs to be, which was like what we had 20 years ago, now it's about making the film work and not be distracting. And what I mean by that is, one of the other problems with the film is there were so many little flaws, so many things that they would do differently today, that they would do that conflicted with your ability to concentrate and enjoy the picture. For example, there's a beautiful shot in the travel pod. I'm trying to stick to that sequence where you zoom in on Kirk. You're just zooming in. And as you're zooming in, suddenly, boom, the camera moves over like that as you keep going in there. It had this weird bounce. And if you're watching the film, you're going, oh, it distracts you from it. That was smooth. So it now goes in and gets
I was trying to think of when that happened. I don't remember bouncing there
because you never saw the original one enough to remember that, and now you've only seen the proper film.
And the point was to fix everything that stood out as this isn't real or this isn't right. And that scene also had another thing that stood out for me that was uncomfortable. And that's that the travel pod itself, the way they put Kirk and Scotty in there, was that was a screen, a rear projection screen on the window. And they had a projector behind it. And they were projecting inside the little pod onto that screen, Scotty and Kirk. So they would take a photo, increment both that one and the camera, take another photo, and what you'd have is these people plastered on a curved screen, and it made them deformed. It made them kind of bulbous, and it didn't look right. So I went to the team and said, "What can we do about that?" And Darren and some of the team members came together with the idea of let's pop them back. And I think at one point we even grafted them into a flatter position, and now they look like they're properly standing inside the travel pod.
Yeah.
That's another thing where you're watching this and saying, okay, this has to look natural and not take you right out of the movie. So that was another part of that sequence. There's other things like when the travel pod comes down and it's doing the swing around to reverse. There was the image below it of the support arm that was holding it was in the image. So you saw this like shadow moving below it as well. They had a take without it. They just never had the time to put it in.
Oh.
So we didn't have to digitally remove whatever. We actually just used the other take that had the piece without the visible support arm ghosting below it.
Wow.
To get it in there. And it was wonderful to find the beautiful work of Doug and just be able to put it together and have it be sharper and cleaner.
Yeah.
By drawing out that quality that was already there, not artificially, just really knowing multiple scenarios to be able to pull that out and raise it to the level of the actual photography that we had. And I came to the conclusion that the rear shots behind Kirk and Scotty, looking through the view screen, since they were still enhanced, they still looked better than they ever had before because of the work that we were doing. But that screen obviously was a little distorting, so it made things look softer than it would look outside. So there's a reasoning we could come up with why it wouldn't look as good.
Sure.
But it still did look gorgeous. And the Easter egg is the shot of that Enterprise is in the special features. I needed it at some point to be seen the way that it was, and it was put in by Rafael Ruiz, who's doing our special features, to make sure that that shot was seen the way that it was. So in addition to just getting all the new shots in and all the the edit down and the, some of those enhancements, just getting the distractions out was huge. Something that I don't believe we could have done as well back then, but we did this time too, was that Bob hated the monitors on the bridge because they weren't interlocked with the camera, and you had these horrible flickers everywhere. By the end of the film, Bob was staging his characters to have someone stand there, which was right in front of a monitor, so that when you're watching it, he knew that your job is to enjoy the film, to see the character, see the person standing there, and be focused on them instead of, look at me, guys. What are you paying attention to?
Right.
You're paying attention to me anymore? You have to focus and make it be on the person, and all those things that would distract away had to be dealt with. So shot by shot, things that were flickering were taken and smoothed out so that they wouldn't flicker anymore, and they look great. Now the bridge is alive, not the sort of pseudo work it was. Same thing about the sound mix. The sound mix is alive. Every little beep and boop that's on the bridge is supposed to be telemetry. Kirk's there doing everything that he's doing, but he should know exactly what's going on his ship because he can hear it. That was the whole point. And it has to sound like something you'd listen to, not overlapping nothing, but something that means something. So even though he doesn't react, he knows what's happening on the ship. And that's the way the original show was, but that's what was needed here, because the original sound mix, the bridge was silent.
Yeah.
They didn't have time to put that sound in. And this time around, in doing the director's edition, the other goal was Dolby Atmos, and it's not an old film. It's a 2022 big blockbuster. So it needs to have that power, because any good movie now has highs and lows. Something goes high where it's powerful and gets you involved and everything else. Then you need time to recover, and that balanced with the long cloud shots. Because you just went through the wormhole. Now you have the clouds. You're still coming down from the wormhole. The clouds aren't as long anymore. As a matter of fact, you're entertained in a different way. And even that's shorter from the edit. But you're entertained, and by the time we get back to V'ger, where we've just been through the down, what do we have? The Enterprise, and in the shot that probably helped you truly understand where we were was this wonderful shot of the Enterprise going this way, and it does, this is new, a reverse.
Remember me telling you that?
And moving there, because originally it just went this way, and that's where people lost where they were, because next thing you know, it's in front of it. What are we in front of? Because you didn't see the ship.
Right.
But that little turn and going, it makes so much of the difference.
And that's where I was going to talk about. You did the Dolby Atmos sound, but I mean, there's a lot more theatrical, right? But I mean, there's the whole soundtrack got a makeover from top to bottom. That in the film, all the details you can hear now. When the probe is accessing Ilea and her digital voice goes away,
the voices always sound muddled, hard to hear. They always sounded flat, and it was difficult to understand and comprehend. The thing is, there were projectors going on the bridge all the time, 16mm projectors. Much of the recordings of the sound on the bridge couldn't be used because there was so much sound going on and noise going on. So Bob went in with everybody and looped all their dialogue. Looping is when you do ADR, automatic dialogue replacement, where they show a scene and they say, okay, cutting down 5, 4, 3, say the line, and the actor says it again. Bob was directing everybody to get the way that he wanted them to sound and what they were saying, to have the right vocal inflections to get the point across. The Paramount Archive people are fantastic, and they found something incredible. We kind of knew for 3 years we were going to do it. And in that time, they knew, start scouring the studio, find everything. One of the greatest things that they found were the original ADR tapes.
Wow.
All those recordings that Bob did with the actors that were recorded for use. And so much of the film was re-recorded because of different sound effects, that we finally were able to put in every clean bit of dialogue in the whole film. from beginning to end, everything that was looped. And it's night and day. And there's sequences, everything that was put in from the special longer version originally, that was on set dialogue. Bob recorded dialogue that he chose, that he wanted for those scenes, never made it into the film. So now we had it and we put the right performance in, the way that he wanted you to hear the people doing it. So this is the first time that you actually heard what Bob was intending for the voices when he directed them originally. And it was marvelous. And the voices becoming crisp and clean, plus Bruce Spotnick. What a brilliant man who did the Dolby Atmos music mix.
Absolutely.
And what's great is we started this years ago and we did the transfers for the soundtrack albums, but we knew we were going to this. That's the wonderful part about this. We knew that we were going to go to film someday. So anytime we did anything, we built on, what do we have now? We're doing this audio transfer. Great. Well, let's make sure we have it for the next stage.
Right.
And we got the best elements. So they mixed the Atmos for the film and we brought it in. I mean, it's night and day. It's so wonderful to hear that.
I wanted to call out something specific because you told me to listen for it on my first viewing, and it kind of chilled me to the bone. But the scene where they have a little mishap, they're trying to beam somebody up to the Enterprise. Oh my goodness. You didn't undersell that at all. I heard that. Yeah. I've never heard that kind of, I don't know if I want to say scream, because something's going on there, where something's not formed, but it's forming, and it's just a horrible sound. It's just one of those things where you don't know what you're hearing, but you do understand what you're hearing. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's an unbelievable sound.
Yeah. Were you scared?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
For the first time, for me, it was the first time, because it was the first time I'd seen it a million times before, but this is the first time I was going, I
was scared you guys were going to cut back to what was left over for a second. I was like, please don't cut back. Please don't cut back. Yeah. I was like, okay, they're not going to cut back. Fantastic.
The picture edit didn't change from the director's edition before.
No.
Picture edit didn't change. Much of the sound work there was by Chuck Michael and his team from the original work. But the new mix added to it, and the power that was presented with it mattered. And you know what? 22 years ago, I went to Chuck Michael, who was the head of sound at that time. And I said, Chuck, I have something special that I need from you. I said, this movie is rated G. I need a PG. I want it to be a PG. I need it to be a PG because G became a kid's film, not just a film that was not needed, but it was important. And I said, look at the film. There's nothing in this film that's going to make a PG except this. That transporter accident, which is one of the most horrific things that ever happened in Star Trek. I said, this needs to be nails on a chalkboard, hair standing up on the back of your neck, listening to this. And I said to them, this was the instruction I gave him. And he by the way, he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
I imagine you're beaming up and you're in the worst struggle, the worst pain of your existence. You are being physically ripped apart. And you need to scream, and you don't have anything to scream from. And finally, something materializes enough that you can utter a sound. What would that be?
I'm just thinking of it now. It's awful.
What would that sound be? And I said, that's going to get us a PG. Because nobody's going to want their kids to watch that, because their kids will have nightmares just based on the sound. And hearing what that guttural, that's why it's there.
Yeah,
it is
to make it come across. And bless Paramount, I said to them, we have to send the movie in for re-rating when we were finished. And this was early on, a long time ago. And I'm glad they listened to what the goal was for re-rating. So we submitted the director's edition this time. And the MPAA voided the G that had been given to the theatrical version of the film. and awarded the director's edition a PG, which made the unfinished work now unrated because it wasn't finished. And special longer version obviously was unrated.
Right.
So the only finished version, even at that point, was PG. And even now, we didn't change the film so much that the rating would change.
Right.
So the film is rated PG, and that I also knew on a marketing side. Well, it wasn't the point of getting the PG. It's just that I also knew the scene needed to be so powerful that it would affect people in this way because you remember it, and it means so much that, and especially when McCoy comes back on, the first thing he's doing is, you know,
I'm here.
maybe when he beamed up, they were still mopping up the last one, but
yeah,
you know, it was.
Oh man.
I mean, I'll tell you an interesting tidbit about that. When they did that scene, there's a point where Kirk says, "Starfleet, do you have them?" And a voice comes on and says, "Enterprise. What we got back didn't live long, fortunately."
right.
They had no time.
Ugh.
That's the editor. He put a temp line in, and they just had no time to change it, and that was his voice.
It
The
worked.
editor with his temp line. It works great. Wouldn't change it.
It works fantastic because there's that poignant, just dead air right between that, and then there's the smallest, most.
You can hear in his voice.
It's this, but it's the smallest, most clinical. We got something. You know what I mean? Like no emotion, just reporting exactly what happened because you don't know how to feel about it. It was that scene. When I was watching it with Kevin, I felt like I was missing something only because we were just kind of watching it on a home setup. And when you had talked about the work you had done with the Atmos system, I was like, man, this would be an amazing experience if I could just get in, see this in the theater, dead center in a theater watching this and hear that scene again. Wow.
Yes, Paramount executives, we'd like to see this in the theater. Okay.
It's been available for booking, and I just got word today that it's going to be showing in Switzerland now. It's been in Belgium, it's Canada, it opened in the UK, it's been back here in the States in Michigan. It's available for booking, and there's some exciting things in the near future about theatrical as well happening that I can't quite talk about yet. But you know, another thing that was always considered confusing is you understand who was beaming up.
Yes.
Yeah, the gentleman he was talking about in the when he first arrives,
at
he steps
Starfleet,
off. He says, "I want to see you,
Vulcan.
You know, an hour. I want you to see the on the Enterprise." That unfortunate gentleman,
Commander Sinek.
Yes, right.
The Vulcan officer that he wanted because he couldn't have Spock, so he wanted another Vulcan officer, only to have him not necessarily make it.
Right.
What's really funny is that you know, there's a what some people consider a blooper, and I just call it part of the film. When Kirk gets off the air tram in the tram station, and he first starts coming off, there's a shot of what looks like a crew member in a silver crew jacket holding a woman back as it pans by, and you know, so that she can, and it always gets there for a second. And people said, "Did you take that guy out?" And I've always said no, because it goes on for such a moment as it is. There wasn't a point of taking it back. And then it was funny because I was posting about it. People were saying, "Well, you really should take it back." I said, "No, the assassin from the past who was there to get them, who butchered the transporter to get Kirk thinking he was beaming up with Sinek. Why would you take him out?" And it's just kind of funny that but that's why he was there. He was trying to get them, and he only got Sinek, but didn't get Kirk. You know, why would you take him out? But it's fun when you have some creativity with the thoughts of what you're going to put in there. But why would you take the guy out anyway? It was just, I found some crazy things up until the last few days we were doing the project. I found errors that blew my mind that we fixed. But throughout, there were different places where they were shaking in the camera. There was other places where they were shaking the camera. And I really wanted to find that probe on the bridge footage before it went to Mylar. And if I have any disappointment about the entire project, it's only that we never found that original footage. But as I said earlier, where it felt like you stopped the film and some other film went in there, I knew we needed to do something. So a brilliant colorist named Alexis von Herkman, who really was working with us a lot on the film and helping us with the visual effects stuff, and even get the whole concept of where we wanted our color timing to be. He was brilliant. I gave him the job of, here, take this. We need it to match the film. It needs to stop looking like we're leaving the film and going to something else. So he spent a while just going in and finessing and getting the skin tones in and getting the uniforms to match. And it now looks like it fits in the film, and anything that looks weird or off or otherwise is due to the light,
Right.
due to what it's creating.
Mm-hmm.
At one point I was even thinking of, how can I make it effective? And if you think about it, the light is there, but it's not entirely natural.
Mm-hmm.
And I was coming up with an idea that maybe it was a white hole, that it was kind of sucking light in.
Oh,
That's
Right.
part of what it was doing. You know, just all different concepts of how possibly to make it dynamic, but make it tell the story better. And I'm really happy with how it turned out now.
The probe feels otherworldly.
It should be. It is
in the way that
otherworldly.
it sits. Yeah, exactly. That's
Well-
why when I watched it, it felt like it was appropriately there, because the probe, like you were saying, feels like it's sucking away the light.
there's detail
Yeah.
that wasn't there. Look, in the theatrical, all I remember the probe being is this band of light. There was nothing really coming off of it. At least if there was, I wasn't seeing it on that screen back in 79, 80, whenever I saw it. It was just a big bar of light. And I was like, I guess that's interesting. All right. But now, again,
And it cut off,
watching it,
and it cut off, and you saw the top of it at times,
right.
which
Really?
didn't seem
In
right.
in 4K
That was
now, there's all
adjusted
this-
so that it never leaves the frame, the full
Mhm.
frame, because that gives it more of a, where is the world? Where is it going?
Mhm.
There's now
The
these
otherworldly.
bands of light and energy warping around it, and you can almost see some prisms of forming and going away and all this. I mean, it's amazing. But you know, I want to go back to the music. So this is the full score. I had this. I bought this when it first came out, the original soundtrack album, because I think that's the first thing I did after I saw the theatrical release of motion picture, is I went out and bought the album. I loved the Klingon battle sequence. Loved that song. I loved, the song when they fly around the dry dock. Oh, there's so many great, beautiful music parts in it. And I'm really glad that this exists, because this is everything. This is the limited edition. It is the remastered and expanded original motion picture soundtrack. Thank you.
That was made with the tracks that were used for the film.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't get that originally. The first one album that came out was the original soundtrack album. That's what I had.
Mhm.
And I always thought,
it was
"Oh, this is something."
it was followed up by a slightly expanded version.
Mhm.
And
This is
then there
everything.
was the 3 CD set that included the unused score that Jerry originally wrote that wasn't used in the film. And then that's the complete without that.
Speaking
complete
of unused songs, there is a song by
There's
Sean
a
Cassidy.
star beyond time,
Yes.
floating
Okay.
in space, waiting for you and me. Hi.
Can you walk us through the thinking, what was going on with that then? Is because now this is before Top Gun and Footloose and all those, where Hollywood had figured out, hey, if we have jazzy songs, we can sell more. This was a different thought process, right? How did they land on this?
Do you know Gene Roddenberry wrote notes to the original Star Trek theme?
No, he
Really?
didn't. Did he
Oh, wait,
really?
wait.
He wrote lyrics to the original Star Trek theme. I
Oh
don't
my gosh.
I don't, forgive me. I'm telling you, what I understand. I don't know the details of how this works, but this is my understanding from
Okay.
the original Star Trek theme. Because he wrote lyrics to the original Star Trek theme, I think it was the rights ended up being that any time that they did the song, the lyricist had to receive some money. So by writing lyrics to the original Star Trek theme, there would be some additional, funding going on from a reuse of the thing so many times over every show and whatever else. And I don't know this for sure, but I kind of got, somewhere down the line, somebody told me a story about, well, if Aaliyah's theme had lyrics, and Gene did them, I believe, something similar might happen. I don't know if it's true or not, but what I do know is they took the love theme. That's just what I'd heard. I don't know. If somebody else knows, tell me. But that's
let us
this
know in
is
the
so many
comments
years
if
that
you
I've
know.
heard. But additionally, songs on the radio were always successful. Even Star Wars had by Mego. The Mego tracks were very popular on the radio. Here was an idea to get Sean Cassidy, who's absolutely, a very popular singer who had never really recorded a love ballad before, and do a popular song. So I have two funny things to tell you about this. Number one, a few funny things. Number one is that it was in Japan that they put the single out. I don't know if it was, it was actually playing in Japan. Somebody here told me that recently that they'd heard the song on the radio in the States. And I said, yeah, somebody probably recorded it or got a copy from Japan at that time, because it was only a promo. It wasn't an official release. It was a promo that the studio was putting out. And that's number one. Number two was that we searched high and low through the Paramount archives, through everything, to find the original recording master of that. Went to the record company, everything. Nobody had it. And I'm one of those people who has a lot of fun with eBay. I will put on the wackiest things. I have a list of the wackiest things that I can think of that I have it immediately tell me if it ever shows up. And it's funny because it was, many years ago now that I just put in Star Beyond Time, and all the time I keep coming across sheet music, which was put out with the lyrics and everything. And I go to a great Facebook group called the Star Wars Appreciation Society, and I post every time that the sheet music shows up that is, somebody put the sheet music up again. Here it is for sale. Go grab it. And I'd had this same search going on for 20 some odd years. At one point, probably about 20 years ago, 3 years after the project, because we did have a copy of Star Beyond Time, but we didn't have the clean master to put on the album, because the 3 CD set before that one has the song on it. About 3 years after that, somebody posted on eBay, Sean Cassidy, Star Before Time 45, never played. I went, okay, sold, bought it.
Buy now.
Didn't even know, I don't remember what it was, but I bought it. It came in, and when we started doing the soundtrack, the big everything collection, that was the free CD one, we started looking for the song. And it's funny, never found it. So we went over to one of the top places in town that transfers from vinyl and transferred it from the unplayed 45. The first play we had was the master that was made, and we turned it over and played the duplicate version on the other side of the record to make sure we had the best version, because the other side was the same thing. Right. So if you wore out the record once, you can turn it over and do the other. And that became the master that exists today. And what's funny about that is, where you can buy that song alone?
Where?
Not iTunes?
Go to iTunes, go to Sean Cassidy's site, and it is my master that I transferred from that. He took it and he's selling it on his collection of music from that CD transfer.
So search Sean Cassidy.
Sean Cassidy. You'll find a Star Beyond Time, and it is a copy off of the CD that we did, because nobody had found the master anyway. Now, here's a fun story I'll tell you otherwise that I think is fantastic. Without going into explaining this, one day I brought a copy of the soundtrack over to a friend's house, and she put on headphones and started to cry. And it was because I was playing it for his mother. I was playing A Star Beyond Time for Sean Cassidy's mother.
Oh,
And she cried because she said, I've never heard him sing a love ballad. I'd never heard him sing like this.
oh.
And it was so precious and so wonderful. And I remember she left the room and had to call him and talk to him and about that this amazing thing had come up. Do you know who his mother is?
Lori. Mrs. Partridge.
Mrs. Partridge.
Yes.
It is Shirley Jones. Mrs. Partridge was Sean Cassidy's mother.
I had a crush on Shirley Jones as a youngster for a long time, and I too had an opportunity to meet her once, and I was over the moon about it. What a lovely lady. And both David and Sean were big time heartthrobs back in the day. You couldn't pass a newsstand without seeing one of those two guys, or seeing David on the Partridge Family, or Sean guesting on the Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys, or whatever thing was. They were everywhere.
And it was just precious she didn't know what I was playing for her at first, and she got it. It was such a great moment.
Wow.
And she so the last time I saw her, she looked great. I used to work with her for a little while.
That's a wonderful story. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much great stuff about this. You know what? Can we talk about the collectible side that was generated from this now? That if that was all you did would have been remarkable, because everything that is in here, I think even Ernie was impressed.
Oh yeah.
I'm opening it up now, but it's, it has reproductions, little lobby cards that they had.
My favorite were
right?
my favorite are the bumper stickers. Those were my favorite.
Yeah.
I actually just about everything that was in there came from my archive. I love the fact that they had so many goofy things that had been created at the time to sell this film. So many things everywhere. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure these were door signs.
Oh yeah. Oh, wow.
Wow, look at that.
Nice.
With his picture on it.
I love it.
I haven't shown these to anybody yet, so we're getting it first.
Wow.
Wow, look at that one. Mr. Spot.
Quarters, yes.
There it is.
little nice door signs that were at the time. If I found them, they might have been in a box. But I love the bumper stickers. And my thought was to the bumper stickers was that today you don't put them on cars. What do you put them on?
Right.
Laptops. Yep.
So that was the idea. So there's my laptop, and there's the stickers, and these were supposed to be taken off the sheet and put on, but like everyone, you're not going to do it. So but I like the bumper stickers. For some reason in the UK set, the bumper stickers were bigger, but I always intended them to be that big so that they could fit on a laptop. But I just want to show everybody I actually put it on a laptop.
My favorite's the red one. That one's my favorite.
Beam me up, Mr. Spock.
Mr. Spock.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, it was fun because but the thing is, the art was so simple. It was used so much. It was so simple. And it was so interesting that it was nice that they were at least getting the gist of things and trying to have fun with it. And that's where it was interesting, that it was so off, but so right. And they were given out as promotional. They had matchbooks, that were out there. In the front cover, I gave them a whole bunch of material. If you look at the front cover of the book that's in there, it has a montage of stuff, the stickers from the card set. I gave them scans of everything I could find, and they just put that together. I was very impressed that this is how the package that they came up with, including the 79 Enterprise poster, the cutaway.
Yeah, that's the one that Kevin was showing earlier.
I showed it. Yeah, I had that poster and I loved it. It was one of my favorite things. And I'm so glad you put that in there. It took me back. And it's absolutely one of the coolest pieces of Star Trek art I can think of. Iconic pieces. That's one of those ones that it's like they haven't made one better than that yet, as far as cutaways go.
Even when they did one for Star Trek 4, which was the same thing but with a different planet and a little other changes. And
well, I mean, the first
they made a modified version of that, but the first one was still stood as so big and so beautiful.
Other stuff that has come out, this was a gift from a very cool guy.
That was
David.
That was
But-
interesting. That was an idea that I had. It was a fever dream. No, it was just I had a vision. Yeah, Darren Doctorman, our visual effects guy, good friend, did the design for the sensor for ILEA. And my friends over at Factory Entertainment, who I've known for years, I have first said to the studio, we really need to make these up and give them out at conventions for people to wear. And it was because it all started with a vision that I had. And by the way, it's 43 years. Why did it take this long for someone to make a sensor? To just think of putting a fun little sensor with all the merchandise. Why didn't it? Anyway, the idea was that I had this vision of doing a talk at a convention and looking out at the audience and just seeing this flood of little lights and everybody's neck. That was just because I said, hand it out so that I could stick on and you turn it on and people would walk around. And I said, that's marketing. Anybody who sees a light there thinks motion picture.
Yeah.
Right.
I said, that would have been great. You get every convention, you have people walking. It was too complicated of something to do in the time we had. So I went to my friends at Factory and I said, I really would like to see this made. What do you guys think? Here's the model, work on it. And they came back with the whole chevron package and the light, and it has a timer to turn off, which is way too short. But it's great. Like, it should stay on all day. I said, batteries be damned, let it be on for 48 hours, But like every 20 seconds, you got to tap the thing or it turns off. But at least it's beautiful. And I said, with that on, it's absolutely wonderfully accurate to the film. Anytime you want to do a take and you're ready to go, the light will go out. So just tap it. That was kind of, it was funny because we kept looking at different takes, but we didn't find the takes with them with the light that wasn't working. I guess they just never printed them. But it was fun. But I love the little thing. And the chevron, that Kirk badge, I got to tell you, is absolutely inaccurate because it's so much better than the one in the film.
It is beautiful. It is
absolutely beautiful, and it's
they
so
did
much
too
better
good
than
a
the one
job.
and I like that one better because it's very prestigious, it's very sharp, it's very clean, it looks great. Another company did one, it's totally accurate if you want it the way that it accurately is. But that's a limited edition of 1701.
I like this box set. This is very cool. I mean, so far, these two things, awesome. And add that to this. I've got quite a collection going here. The two things, but there are two things that I did not get my hands on that you did, and that is the X06 1/6 scale figures.
So in regard to merchandising, there was one thing that I really wanted many years ago, back in the, when we were doing it the first time. And it was surprising to me. And I actually kind of think it was so precious, people were afraid to do it to a certain degree. And that's that around the time the first director's edition came out, sure, there was a model kit of the Enterprise, but there weren't any toys really that were beautiful. There was nothing really great of the motion picture Enterprise. Right. And I kept asking why. And one of the things that we did, because I did have them pull the Enterprise out and we sent it up to Foundation Imaging, is that I had detailed photos taken of every angle of the ship, and then made sure that the merchandising and licensing division got a whole bunch of those photos so that they could give it to a licensee who would be able to reproduce it accurately. And I think because of that, it wasn't Playmates, I think it was Diamond Select that ended up doing a really nice Enterprise. And then I think Polar Light started doing the model kit after that. It was the fact that we now had it out, but we also had it out for everybody at Foundation or everybody else to come look at it. That was their job. It was up there for them to make the CG model perfect. The fact that we all loved it, and it was a point where you can go in there and find inspiration just being in the room with this thing, helped the project a lot too.
Okay, so the next thing that came out was the X06 1/6 scale action figures of Admiral Kirk, Admiral James T. Kirk, and Kolinahr Spock. And I think these, if you're going to pick costumes, there's a few costume changes in this, but I think these two are these are the first costumes we see each character on the Enterprise in, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Spock arrival.
Yep.
Right.
Incredibly
Welcome.
detailed at 1/6 scale, very realistic portraits, right? Actually kind of freakishly realistic.
Well,
and
I'll tell you what's wonderful is that Kirk's moment, you couldn't have picked a better moment for what Kirk is doing.
right.
And I'll point it out to you in a second after I get Spock with his third party reporter. He's checking to see if Kirk is real. The moment that they captured of him, the moment that he is in this, that they have for him, is the only moment that you'll ever need. And that's I often say that Bob always knew to have one shot. I don't know if it was inherently real or if it was just, natural for him. But there was always one shot in every one of his films, at least, that shocked me, because it was the whole film summed up into a moment. And it happens in all the films, but motion picture didn't quite have one. And that moment came out in the director's edition. And that's when Kirk's going around the Enterprise. He will, at one point, you do the zoom in on him, you cut to the front of the Enterprise, then you get a close-up of Kirk, and we've added the reflection of what he's looking at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that sums up everything.
Yeah.
And it's such a precious moment. That's the moment on his face.
Yep.
That's what he is. This figure is getting that moment, that loving moment of the Enterprise in his eyes. So XO6 did a beautiful job with these. They're very hard to get, but they're truly dynamite. And
I think they're wonderful. From the pictures that I've seen, I definitely. Oh yes, that's right. And Spock.
There's the other chevron too that I was talking about.
Right. Well, they each come with their appropriate chevron.
The IDIC.
IDIC.
Infinite diversity and infinite combinations.
Right.
It's the IDIC symbol that Roddenberry came out with a long time ago.
Yep.
The only thing that I think was missing, and it's funny because I was talking to them about what props could be with these characters, and that's why they did do the IDIC symbol and the chevron for Kirk. And that's that they didn't have any good props that would go with them because the characters basically don't touch anything in these outfits. It's mostly Kirk running around and talking, and but he doesn't really change much. So they said, let's put that on there. But Spock was missing something. And a friend of the family, Russ Munner, decided that he and a friend were going to start creating the missing link, which is a little Mr. Spock tricorder, which he has when he goes on the bridge of the Enterprise.
Yeah, he asked somebody to borrow it. Who somebody hands him one? Is it Decker that had one? He says, "Can I see?"
Well,
it?
yeah, he said,
right.
If you don't mind, well, of course, and he hands him it.
Yeah.
I've been monitoring your transmissions. I offer my services as a science officer. This is great little moments, but if you're looking for a thing that's almost needed, so they're inexpensive on eBay, and he's not going to make any money. So Paramount, don't worry. But these are wild, and they're about to do a third one in the series. I was going to go. They're going to do Arrival Bones, which has been incorrectly referred to as Disco Bones.
But we know better.
It's actually, let's see. Killjoy was here. There you go. Anyway, what I did some research for XO6. We were trying to get the leather belt and everything, and we figured out that by looking at the figures, because they're doing Arrival McCoy, while it does look disco-ish, it actually is Western McCoy. He's actually there with a leather belt with some what is it, jade, blue and black stone. It's very popular
Yeah, the buckle.
on Western belts, and it has
Right.
leather stitching and such. But it was surprising because I looked at the bottom of his legs, and to see what type of shoes he was wearing, and it's like a light colored felt. But then I noticed that it goes up to his pants leg, and that he's wearing riding boots, Western cowboy boots that are like a felt. So he has boots on. He has this Western belt that's on, and amazingly, it's funny. I saw this years ago, and we had the images. There was some rehearsal takes that were done of the time that had McCoy beam up with a prop to work with, and what this was a prop. He rode up with we beamed up with a riding prop.
Wow.
And he's going to Kirk. You did this, with the writing crop in a rehearsal. So there's these couple of pictures out there that were taken of him holding the crop talking to Kirk, and rightfully so, they got rid of it. But it also implies further that it's Western or Old English, depending on how you're writing with a crop anyway. But it's just funny that had that unique prop in it too, and that it's actually, the mystery is it wasn't disco McCoy, it was Western McCoy, which is kind of interesting. And the other little tidbit I'll say is we also learned in that sequence that the last thing that appears when you transport is your beard, facial hair.
Oh,
so if you take a look, you'll see that his outline shows up. And he's clean shaven in the outline of him beaming up. And he shows up,
oh my gosh.
Oh, my beard. So we've come to the conclusion that the last thing that shows up when you beam up is your beard.
Sure, of course, that makes sense.
Facial hair. The hair on your top of your head, that'll be there, but
that'll go. But facial hair is very different.
Got it.
Yeah, which I find really funny. So that was interesting. So, and then of course Playmates. Going back to merchandising. I love it. I just love the fact because. As a kid, I grew up with a model of the Enterprise, from classic Star Trek.
Sure.
And I would, as a kid, dreaming of space exploration and dreaming of space flight and loving the Enterprise and wishing I could be on that, I would take the model and I would spend an hour going and dreaming my thoughts and imagining what it would be to have this thing. And I'll jump forward a little. When we took that ship out of the crate, a lot of people have seen some footage of us uncrating the Enterprise. I'm not in most of the footage. Oh, I was there, but I wasn't in any of the footage because there's lots of shots like the Klingon cruiser we also brought out that's between the struts, that's forward. I was shooting the video.
Right.
I was in my mind doing that same that I did as a kid with the actual model here. And what's funny is that's what the scene is for me. The scene it's real. It's in front of me. Show me everything. And it means something. The ship the Enterprise is a precious character.
Yes.
From the story. And it's the character that I want to know more about. I want to hear more about, and I want to be on, these are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
I've always said that.
She is missing.
That the reason that I have all these little collectibles and collections, the reason I bought, I have the Mandalorian ship is everything.
You mean the hidden Mickey ship?
Right. Yes. But all the things that I have, there's storytelling in it. You hit it right on the head. People say, "Oh, it's a spaceship." No. This is like universe building. Yes, there's story in every part of the design of that ship. Recreation deck.
But it's our home.
Yeah.
It is our world.
Right.
When you're on the ship, it is what keeps you alive. It is what you do. And I always believed that Kirk was having a love affair with her.
Yeah.
Of all women that he was on the show with, she was the most important.
It's one of the more wonderful things is when you get this collector's edition. The director's edition is you see this behind the scene footage of what you're talking about, of you taking video of them creating it, everybody that is looking at that ship has an expression on their face that is so like, this is home.
Yeah,
I can't believe I'm here. Like, you know,
in the
they,
presence
they
of
have
greatness.
they have their elbows on the crate. They're just kind of doing this really just sheepish. I can't believe this is what we're looking at. You got they started laying on the floor, looking up at it, looking like, oh my god, look at all the detail on this. Like,
we all wanted to prepare for it. I'll geek out for the only time. We all wanted to pretend that we were professionals. In fact, every single one of our inner childs were on the floor crying.
Yeah.
you can
Every
see
one of
it.
us.
You can see it. There's no hiding it. It
And
was all over there.
That's what it is. It really, and that's how I felt every day working on this. Not like in awe, just that this is important and this is what it means to everybody, and we have to appreciate that. And I did what needed to be for me, and my standards are so high that I usually shoot for here, get to about here, and not happy. But what's great is everybody thinks here is fantastic. So I'm blessed in that way. I'm so blessed in that way, even though I'm not satisfied yet because I wanted it to be here. But that is such a blessing and such a responsibility.
Yeah.
To make this be what it needed to be. I mean, there was a lot of risk, considered by the studio that, they're going to ruin it. They're making it. They're not going to make it like this. That's not the point. This is a film that wasn't finished till now.
Right.
It is what it is now. And I'm just so blessed and thrilled that everybody is appreciating it and loves it. And it touches my heart.
Yeah, well, and that's,
I know Bob and Gene are thrilled.
That's what I'm saying, is that you gained Bob pretty much passed the torch to you and said, all right, son, run with this, get me across that finish line. And you did it.
I'm really proud to say that never before had one thing happened that should have, and it has now. And it wasn't a decision, it was the natural order of things.
Right.
And that's that the studio understands that this is the asset that they want. And it has now taken the proper place as when you say Star Trek the Motion Picture, you're talking about this.
Right.
This.
For the longest time, we were talking about the 4K theatrical version. There's no question anymore. And it was not, what's precious about this is it wasn't me saying so, the movie earned it.
Mm-hmm.
And for everyone to now know forever that it's not the horrible film that Bob, ended up having to put together, and that this is it. And it's so much better than it even could have been when we did it 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
I just wish Bob had a chance to see it, and I believe that he and Gene got a chance to sit down and watch it, and maybe Doug Trumbull brought some stuff up to show him with Jerry Goldsmith. And
however you think about it,
Ursus
if they saw that from beyond or through your eyes, I like to think he knows.
There were times on the project where I needed to go in some direction and maybe didn't have a clearest focus, and I could have sworn that he, put his hand down, and then I felt him there for the moment, and it just it made things clear.
Right.
And
Wow.
I gotta tell you, everything was beautiful as this went, and I'm sure he was watching it, and he was with me. It was happening, and what happened is really attributed to the brilliant people who worked on it then. I'm thrilled Bob trusted, because the result is what we have now, and the effects team now did a great job. Michael Babcock, who did the sound work with Mike Mendocino, and the music with Bruce Botnick and Darren Doctorman, and the whole team, Mojo, everybody that came back from Foundation, and everybody who threw in a hand now to get it done, and Gene Kazicki, who was amazing pulling our film materials together. and and the people at Paramount, the archive, the marketing people, even the mastering people, they were just fantastic. Just that we went in and we sat down and went through everything and made sure that it was right. And there were a lot of
really
things that had
glad.
to be fixed, but just I could not be happier that not only did everybody now understand, but we all wanted the great results, and everybody came together. It was wonderful. It was really, really special. And now I smile when you turn on HBO's broadcast, when they just have things scheduled, and you say, well, gee, I wonder which version, and it comes up and has gold titles. I'm like, wow.
Then that's
right.
I have to say, when you're talking about all those elements coming together and really personifying all this hard work, the scene that you showed us originally when we sat down and talked to it the first time, when they're there with V'ger and they're going to merge, the lighting effects, V'ger's voice, that whole ending sequence. I mean, you were showing it to us on your phone, and I was blown away because it was so bright. The darks were, I swear.
Well, it's a 4K phone, right? So
I know, but the
it's
footage
not.
that
It's
I'm
actually
looking
lower
at,
resolution, but it's HDR.
oh,
but that and the sound quality that I was seeing,
okay.
the voice on V'ger, the effects going into it, all of that just kind of crescendoing in this grand finale. I mean, that's what I'm
different
hearing.
weight now. It has different weight now. From somebody that watched all the old, everything, the new thing now, everything has the right weight and gravity and clarity. Yeah, I know in the past I was lost watching it, and I'm right along. I'm right where I should be at every moment. So
What I really love is as I understand what you're saying, and there's a lot of little things that I still didn't feel were working originally when we did it the first time. And what you have now is so much time planned to find ways to fill those holes, even things that you don't know are holes, that I just felt that you needed a little more nudging here to get the understanding of what's happening. Like I always felt that there's a cutaway in the end swirl of light to the outside of V'ger. And I'm like, why are we there? Why are we outside V'ger? Then you see something move, and it didn't quite connect. So I went and mentioned this to Darren and said, what I really need us to do now, this time around, since we're doing this, is I need to move a little ahead and have it clear that the light's coming from the center where they are building out.
Right.
Not that pause with just lights moving. It has to be an evolving move that's coming, because you see it getting bigger from the center. It needs to cut outside and continue. And it's something almost no one talks about, that it's different, because it's very similar. And it's that subtlety that I'm always on top of, but it's that subtlety and so many things, even subliminal ones throughout the whole film, that are just, let's make a hint there, let's put a sound effect that's gonna, that hopefully someone hears and will answer those questions all along. There were things with Decker in the end that I felt needed a little more. There's a little magic, and as I mentioned to other people, there's at least 2 dream sequences that I'm not going to go into here, but things where what you're seeing on screen or hearing with your ears and whatever is for you as an audience member. It's not what the characters are seeing. They are seeing something else, but it's to get into you and give you the answer to something you're not asking, so you get it. And I never realized how much I was thinking about everything to get it all planned out this way. It was just inherent that I just, that it all fell into place, that it was all there. But I can't tell you how excited I am that things that I didn't think worked better. And I thought about it, and it was the things that were put into place to get that point across throughout the whole film. So it's thrilling to me to hear you say you understood it, and everyone's saying that. And now it can live on its own. And I said, it's been a long time since we delivered a baby. I'd like to think we got this one off to a good start.
Yep. Well, like I said, I've
Definitely
shown
did.
it to people who are casual sci-fi fans that are buying in on this. So from the casual to the Trekkie, to the Star Trek, hardcore Star Trek fans, this is for everybody. This film is for everybody. It's not just
Yeah.
for the people that go to the conventions.
No.
You can show this to anyone.
This film was designed to introduce people to Star Trek.
Well,
You know, you got Robert Wise, remember, the man who directed The Sound of Music, West Side Story. You know, these are crazy things. And nowadays, the importance of the fact that he did Andromeda Strain with that, with COVID and everything. And by the way, this was a perfect COVID movie. We did it all at our own homes, and they sent it everything to me. When we had our premiere, I stood in front of everybody and I said, "Oh my God, I just realized I haven't seen any of you. We have you here in person. I haven't seen you. It's amazing to have you here, and it's so wonderful that we could finally come together and have this night." And many people said that they would never have broken quarantine or come out because COVID was too dangerous, and our theater was protected, clear, but was full of people who just said, "This is the only thing I'd ever come out for."
Wow.
And I was so touched and blessed. And it was funny because a lot of people were there 20 years ago. Same people. So
well, there it is. That's all the proof you need. I mean, I really hope people take what we're saying here and watch this and enjoy it like we did, because it's a great gift. So,
and give it to everybody else. This film is going to have a life because you told them, because you told people how good it was, or what you enjoy about it, or what you took away. Let them enjoy it too. And it's a gift that I'm thrilled to give to everybody and to share, because I sit down and I'm just so thankful to everybody involved that it happened. And I'm thankful to you guys for realizing it and sharing it. And I wish everybody would.
This movie will make people. This movie will make people fall in love with Star Trek.
Yeah,
I can tell
if you
that.
haven't already.
Yeah, because it's that the narrative in it is so tight, so good. Everything works on it.
Well, it defines Star Trek. It's what Star Trek was. Even the newer ones aren't quite like this. It's very much Star Trek as a motion picture. It defines it. It's fun.
Yeah.
Well, David, thank you so much for coming on our show and talking to us, because it means a lot to me to be able to talk about such a wonderful film. But then it's and the collectible aspect, it fits right in here, and we're so lucky to have you here. And I don't know if I'll be able to thank you enough, but I'll try every time I see you.
Really.
Well, it'd be nice to see you guys. And you know, collectibles for me, and I don't really know anybody who's been saying like this. It's their memories, their representations of memories, and it's the memories that matter. This is a scale model. I even called home video. I labeled it home video is a scale model of the theater experience. You can't get the theater, you can't be in the theater for the giant version. So it's a scale model, but it still doesn't take away from that full experience. Same thing with collectibles. It's just a scale version of what your memory was of it. And I think we all just want to get back to that first experience sitting in the theater and loving it. And I hope everybody gets a chance to go back to the theater and enjoy it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, David.
Don't forget to visit us on our Facebook group page. Like us, tell your friends. We would love to hear your feedback. You can comment on the show. You could ask a question, or even leave us a direct message, or tweet us at SkywalkingPod and use the hashtag Collectopolis. We are part of the Skywalking Network,
Skynet,
where you can also find other great shows like the Neverland Clubhouse, Star Wars Ologies, Talking Apes, Totally Tell Me Everything, the Max FX Podcast, and the flagship show, Skywalking Through Neverland.
And look for more shows on the Skywalking Network YouTube channel, like Today in Star Wars History, your daily Star Wars history lesson.
Well, that's it for this episode. I'm Kevin Toff.
I'm Ernie Moreno.
And thanks for joining us on Collectopolis.